Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Miss Doherty.
Here.
Miss Spadacante. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leary.
Here.
Miss Martin.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll entertain a motion now to accept the minutes of the last meeting. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been accepted and placed on file. Thank you. Permission to enter, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Your Honor. Middlesex Community College for the amount of $20,000 to provide college courses for early childhood Department of Training on the Massachusetts Department of Education teacher's exam. Funding provided by the Early Childhood FY10 Budget Community Partnership for Children Grant. Salem State College for the amount of $20,000 to provide college courses for the Early Childhood Department and training on Massachusetts Department of Education teacher's exam. Funding provided by the Early Childhood FY10 Budget Community Partnership for Children Grant. City of Haverhill for the amount of $46,157 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for one student enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the Special Education IEP. Funding provided by the Special Education Department budget, Special Education tuition account. ECHO Collaborative for the amount of $41,945 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for one student enrolled in receiving services as outlined in their IEP. Funding provided by the Special Education Department budget, Special Education tuition account. Greater Lawrence Educational Collaborative, GLEC, for the amount of $998,788 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for 26 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in their Special Education IEP. Funding provided by the Special Education Department budget, Special Education tuition account. Merrimack Education Center Incorporated for the amount of $231,597 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for 5 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the Special Education IEP. Funding provided by the Special Education Department and Special Education tuition account. North Shore Education Consortium for the amount of $205,295 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for 3 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in their Special Education IEP from the Special Education tuition account. SEAM Collaborative for the amount of $46,502 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for one student enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the Special Education IEP. Funding provided as well from the Special Education tuition account. The St. Vincent's Home Corporation of Fall River for the amount of $50,935 to provide for the Oda District tuition costs for one student enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the Special Education IEP, Special Education tuition, coming from the Special Education tuition account. That's all, Your Honor.
Move approval by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Any questions pertaining to this permission to enter? If none, roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Spadacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Moving on with the agenda. Memorials by committee as a whole. A moment of silence with Darkin Chambers for Robert P. Keegan, retired Moody School principal. Mary Ann Crow, mother of Mary Ann Nochuk, McAuliffe School teacher. William O'Brien, brother of Jack O'Brien, United Teachers of Lowell staff representative, and uncle of Mary Lou Boldock, clerk, Lowell High School data processor. James J. Guthrie, former special assistant to the superintendent of schools. Claire Dowling, grandmother-in-law of Lowell High School clerk Roberta Dowling, aunt of daily school teacher Patty Myers, and assistant superintendent of schools Ann Murphy. Noah Trudell, a Lowell Public School student. Manuel S. Carmona, father of Reuben Carmona, assistant principal, Bartlett School. By David Conway. Moment of silence with Darkin Chambers for James Linehan, father of James J. Linehan, executive vice president of the Middlesex Community College, and Thomas Linehan, member of the Lowell Planning Board. By Regina M. Fatacanti. Moment of silence with Dr. Chambers for Mary M. Keefe, mother of David M. Keefe, instrumental music teacher assigned to the Butler Pine Arts and Stockloza schools. By David Conway. Blanche J. Peeland, mother of Philip Peeland, Lowell High School staff member and mother-in-law of Laura Peeland, retired Lowell High School teacher. And Brenda Matthews, sister of Philip Peeland, Lowell High School staff member and sister-in-law of Lauren Peeland, retired Lowell High School teacher. Let us all stand for a moment of silence in Dr. Chambers for these people.
Thank you.
Thank you. May they rest in peace. Is there any unfinished business, Madam Superintendent? Any unfinished business amongst the committee? If none, we'll move on with the agenda. Public participation. There's no public participation. Motions. First motion by Regina M. Fatacanti. Direct the superintendent to create a job description for the position of headmaster of the Lowell High School for the upcoming headmaster search. Seconded by Connie Martin. On the motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I realize that Headmaster Samaras has another year in his position, but it really is one of the most important positions that we have here in our school system. We have one of the largest high schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This position is extremely important to our success as a school system and as a school district, and that position is going to be difficult to fill. I thought that we would start the process now because it will give us an opportunity for the committee to have input as to what they'd like to see in a job description of what the headmaster's position should be. Obviously, Bill Samaras is going to be very much missed. Headmaster Samaras has been here with us for a long time. He really has done an amazing job at Lowell High School, and that position is going to be hard to fill. And I would expect that Headmaster Samaras would also be part of conveying to the superintendent exactly what his job entails and what kind of a person would be needed to fill his shoes. I'd like to start this process now because I think because it is a big job, we don't want to rush. We want to take our time. But clearly, we want to have somebody on board probably after the first of the year, not long after the first of the year, so that they could spend some time with Headmaster Samaras, actually watching him work. I don't know if that'll be a fun thing or a scary thing, but because his job is tough. He's got a tough job, and it's going to be a tough position to fill. So the goal is that the superintendent will come back to us probably, I'd say, in about a month, and have a job description for the committee to look at. Maybe we might want to send this to a personnel subcommittee so that we could have some input as to the direction that this job should be going to. So probably the superintendent's next function should be to get a job description to the school committee. The personnel committee would sit down, take a look at that job description, take input from the rest of the committee and the superintendent as to what it should look like, and then make some recommendations.
Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking back, I would like to say a few things about Mr. Samaras, and I know that certainly in the coming months, weeks and months, we'll obviously have more opportunities to go into more depth. But I would like to say a few things here about Mr. Samaras. When Ms. Fatacanti just mentioned about it's a difficult job, it most certainly is a difficult job. There are many times I would visit Mr. Samaras on a Friday afternoon after a long week as a housemaster, and I would naturally give him many suggestions on what we should be doing for the next week and so forth. And it was easy for me to give those suggestions because I didn't have to make the ultimate decision. And that was in the hands of Mr. Samaras. And I think that if we take a look at it over the last 25 years or so, Mr. Samaras has been the headmaster at the high school, and I think close to, I know we would cringe, but close to 45 or 50 years in the system. He certainly has taken Lowell High School and brought it to completely different levels. We certainly have seen Lowell High School and has been highlighted in magazines as being one of the best urban high schools in the country. And I think he needs to take a bow for that, along with the many staff members that have worked extremely hard. One of the other things that stand out, as far as I'm concerned, about Mr. Samaras is the campaign for excellence. That's something that very few urban schools have, and we're fortunate enough to have it here in Lowell. And it gives many of our students an opportunity to go to college, where perhaps, or give them a help. In some instances, these individuals wouldn't be able to go to college. So this has been an excellent program, Campaign for Excellence, and I'll tell you, I know that he certainly has worked the community very, very hard to make sure that this became successful. And I think also one other thing that I just want to mention now, and as I said, we'll be saying a lot more in the future, but you know, the Lowell High School, I think one of its real strengths, of course, is the diversity we have in our student body, and also the diversity of courses that we have. And I think that between those two, it certainly has made Lowell High School a wonderful place to be educated, and I'm certainly very happy to have been associated with that school for a number of years. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
I just have, anyone else? I just have one question. First of all, Mr. Conway, your comments about Lowell High School is, you're right on target. 3,500 students. The high school is regarded as the 25th best high school in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But I have a question for the committee. Are we putting the cart before the horse? How do we know Mr. Samaras wants to retire? Madam Superintendent, has Mr. Samaras come forward and indicated that next June he's calling it a career?
Mr. Samaras' contract was extended to the end of June of this year. Proper human resource procedures here in the department is that he would submit a resignation letter or give us some indication that he's going to retire. That, if that's your question, that hasn't occurred yet, Mayor. But we obviously did have the conversation last year that his contract would be extended, and you know, I'm taking up the spirit of this motion as, you know, it is a challenging job and it is going to take a long time, and Mr. Samaras wants what's best for the school. And so, you know, with no disrespect to Mr. Samaras, you know, although his paperwork hasn't been submitted, going forward, he will work with us. We've had a conversation that, you know, it needs to be a collaborative process, and it will take some time because it is a very complex position for us within our organization. So again, it may be slightly a little bit ahead of its time, the motion, just because its paperwork isn't in, but we do all appreciate Mr. Samaras, and I also think that going forward he will, as Ms. Fatican had mentioned, be you know, a key player in helping us moving forward and involving people in the selection process. So we will have a conversation coming up shortly, I'm sure, and I will inform the committee of you know, when that conversation occurs and what comes out of that.
You know, we all attend the Lowell High School graduations, and I am really thrilled and excited to hear we have students going to MIT, Brown, Dartmouth, BU, BC, UMass Lowell, Middlesex Community College, schools, many schools of higher learning. And it only tells me that something's being done right at Lowell High School. And I don't know, are we telling Mr. Samaras it's time to hang it up? I'm not. So,
Your Honor, Mr. Samaras told us it was time for him to hang it up because he did submit his retirement papers.
He did?
Yes, he did, sir.
When?
And a year ago, but then he asked for one more year, The superintendent brought that before this committee. We agreed that he would get a 1 more year extension, but he did submit retirement papers, sir, and I would certainly not be pushing Mr. Samaras out the door if he didn't submit those retirement papers. He did very clearly indicate that he was retiring. When the new superintendent came on board, he thought it would be a challenge to work with the new superintendent, and he asked that he be given a 1 more year contract. The superintendent recommended a 1-year contract, and that contract is up a year from now. So, and Your Honor, the reason I put this on the agenda is we are coming into an election year, and based upon certain ethics requirements, it's possible we may not be able to have this discussion during the period after the election, because we're considered a lame duck committee. So if I probably should have also prefaced my remarks to my colleagues that I did not want to have a lame duck conversation. I wanted to start the conversation now, fully recognizing that we're going to have to stop the conversation at some point in time and pick it back up after the first of the year. So that's why I started the process now, recognizing that it's not going to be easy to replace Bill Samaras. It's going to be very difficult for the reasons you just expressed, Your Honor. We have one of the best high schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I don't want to lose that. And I think that while we have Mr. Samaras as a person to go to, that we should be absolutely utilizing his talent in helping us select the next person that will fill his shoes, and maybe that person will do some work with Mr. Samaras before Mr. Samaras actually left. But my concern also was, I recognized we were going to have to stop this procedure the month before the election and pick the procedure back up after we're all sworn in again.
Madam Superintendent?
Just to clarify, Your Honor, you asked me if I had received his resignation or retirement papers for this coming school year. I have not, although I do understand that the history that Ms. Fanticani is talking about, that he has retired a few times, and whatever that situation is, but I do not have any paperwork this year.
So you don't have any paperwork at all?
That's correct, but I will be having a conversation with Mr. Samaras, and my understanding is that after that conversation, I will bring that forward to the committee.
Okay. I think we all agree that Bill Samaras has been a stalwart, the fullback, the running back, the wide receiver, of everything that happens at Lowell High School. And I might say, if some of the schools in the system was run efficiently as Lowell High School, we'd be much better off. So refer the motion to the superintendent. The motion was seconded by
Ms. Martin?
Ms. Martin. Refer the motion to the superintendent, and whether it's in a work of futility or not, if Mr. Samaras wants to stay on, then maybe he can help us with the job description and so forth. But
Absolutely.
I think Bill Samaras is, if we were handing out medals, he certainly would have his share.
Absolutely.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion passes. Second motion by Connie Martin, requesting that the Lowell High School Subcommittee review the current media movie use policy and report back to full committee on recommendations for ensuring that appropriate academic objectives are consistently being met. Seconded by Ms. Doherty. On the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Really, I know that we've discussed in the past the movie use policy at the high school. I believe the last time we addressed this was probably about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, through the high school subcommittee. I really brought this back to the forefront because I had received, I was contacted by several parents who expressed concerns about movies that were being used at the high school. And I just think that, you know, when we're talking about, some of the specifics, regarded science classes that were watching cartoons, I have a hard time understanding how that might happen. I will say I asked some of the, I think, most obvious questions. Was it an end of the year thing? Was it a special event? You know, things like that. And it was pretty clear that this was happening in, February, April. It was happening consistently through the year. That class time was spent watching cartoons as some kind of a replacement, I guess, for a science class at a pretty high level. Not a, this was the specific parents that had approached me had students in honors science courses. So I think that, I would just like us to ensure that not only is the policy clear, but that it's also being enacted, that there is some kind of review, some kind of accountability within, whether it's, a problem within just one specific department or across the board. I am the first to say that I can absolutely accept that there are some places in the curriculum where using different media, using movies can really help learning come alive for a lot of students. But what was described to me, the consistency of it, the extreme, I would say, disconnect between the material and the actual curriculum warranted, in my mind, another review of the policy, and I would respectfully request that the high school take this on, and I will certainly be in attendance that evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could just echo my colleague, I was very pleased to see this motion on. In fact, kind of chagrined that I hadn't thought to put it there myself, because I had also heard numerous complaints and did forward them to the administration at the high school from parents and students who were watching Pursuit of Happiness over several days in a health class, and then one student in particular who said she watched it in a health class and then she watched the same movie in another class, which I don't remember what it was. I thought that was a good movie, but again, we want the part of the motion, appropriate academic objectives are consistently being met, some way to ensure that our policies are clear and that they're being followed. I think it's definitely time to review it. So I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. This is a good motion. I'm glad we'll review it, but I do want to stress again that, and I guess maybe this is just par for the course, we brought a motion like this several years ago because this was happening in elementary, and I know we all sat down, we came up with a policy. I just assumed it went to the high school. All movies are supposed to be reviewed by the principal, or in this case, the headmaster. So we should check that and make sure, because, again, we're going over issues. Maybe it's just par for the course, but it seems like these come up every 3 years or 4 years, and we just go over it and go over it again. So if we could enforce these. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The next motion by Connie Martin, requesting a progress update on efforts to incorporate financial literacy concepts into the established Lowell Public Schools curriculum at all grades. Seconded by Mr. Conway. On the motion.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor. This was really prompted, we had an initial agreement from this school committee. We had passed a motion several months ago that incorporated this idea, this whole concept of bringing financial literacy into our curriculum, not using it as an additional curriculum to add to the already very crowded school day that we have, but really being able to take financial literacy concepts and being able to work them into traditional curriculum goals. So, which I know is a big task. It's why we had kind of, when we brought it up last year, recognized that we really would, best case scenario, we'd be looking at a September kind of time frame. The administration and the school department has been extremely helpful in helping us to really start broadcasting these financial literacy issues and workshops and things like that to parents and family members of our students. But this would really be that next step of making sure that students themselves are getting this information. We hope at an early point. And I'd really just like a progress report just to see where we're at, what we might be able to expect in the fall. And I would say that can come to the curriculum, subcommittee curriculum instruction if that's appropriate, and I would defer to my colleagues if anyone had any other suggestions.
Any other discussion on the motion? If none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on with the agenda. Motion by Connie Martin requesting a meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee to begin the annual performance evaluation of the superintendent.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Dodd.
Thank you very much. This is a traditional motion that comes up pretty much every time this year. We do an annual performance evaluation of the superintendent. It is generally conducted by the Personnel Subcommittee, but that's really just the mechanism we use to ensure that we have every committee member's input.
Definitely.
So what I would like to do, with the consent of my colleagues, is make a request through the administration that that June Cormier basically contact all of us, see if we can set up a convenient time for all of us to come together, discuss the instrument. My intention at this point is to maintain the same instrument we've used for the last several years, but I'd like us to have an opportunity to review it and discuss it before we move forward, and to also finalize a timeline for all of us, get some dates in place for meeting times with the superintendent, so that what I would like to do is be able to report at the latest at our second meeting in September. That's traditionally been the time that we make this report. So as part of the Personnel Subcommittee's work, when we come together that first time, we will set a timeline that I hope will be able to get us to that deadline date.
There is an evaluation form.
We
used
have an
in the
instrument
past.
that's about 4 pages long. It divides up a lot of the different responsibilities that the superintendent has taken
And
on.
the entire committee would have a chance to get in the evaluation of this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other discussion? If none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Motion by Regina Fatacanti. The superintendent give the school committee an update on the move of the central administration of the Rogers School, seconded by Ms. Dowdy. On the motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm looking for the superintendent to give me a report on the progress of our move, her thoughts on what needs to happen, how much money we've been spending, if has there been any overtime. To my knowledge, we're not thinking about any overtime, so I'm hoping that we do not have any overtime reflected on the books. What work has been done so far to get us to the point where we will be scheduled to move on time. So I'm looking for just the whole nuts and bolts, Your Honor, from the superintendent as to what the progress that she has seen up to this date.
Okay.
And that would be great for the next meeting.
Okay. Madam Superintendent?
Just a comment, it is my understanding that some of the city painters did go in on overtime, so I'll just defer that point of clarification to Superintendent Lang.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to, at the next meeting, I'll have a full report for you on the work that's been done to date and the plan for the whole phased move over the course of the fall. Typically in the summer, particularly at the Rogers and other schools, both our staff and the city staff and DPW, we've got an 8-week window where there are no kids in the buildings to really get a lot of work done. And project-based work is done during the regular day and then usually does carry over for some overtime in the afternoons at not only the Rogers but other schools. And we had budgeted $150,000 for the move, and there was a piece of that associated with personnel costs to get the building ready for our move. But I'll give you a full breakdown at the next meeting.
And I believe we have the city carpenter painters in the school working as well, painting, and
Yes, our custodians doing their work, the city side, again, not only at the Rogers, but at all schools, painting, fixing plumbing fixtures, things of that sort. I'll get you a full report.
any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. I just wanted to add that the school building looks great over there. I've been over there myself and checking on the progress, and we're really coming along well. The outside got all cleaned up last week. You know, we've got to be good neighbors to the neighborhood. They're happy to have us there, and the place looks great outside, and we're really making a lot of progress inside. Thank you.
You can't find a better neighbor than the McDonough family, so. Any other discussion? If none, motion to approve.
We already have it,
It was already approved?
yeah. All in favor? Yeah, it's all in favor.
Aye.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
Aye. We got that far. Moving on with the agenda. by David Conway, ask the superintendent to prepare an update regarding our partnership with the art community.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Fatacanti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, during difficult economic times, we certainly find that the arts tend to be cut in our schools, and so that's some of the choices that are made. And I was contacted by a gentleman, Jack O'Connor, and Jack O'Connor and his wife Teresa are really strong supporters of the arts in Lowell. And he asked if I would sit down with him, because I was the chairman of the partnership subcommittee, and I certainly did. And it was a great conversation. And what he was concerned with is getting a strong partnership with the arts community into the schools and see how we could do that. And I thought it was a great idea. I contacted the superintendent, and then we met. A number of people met over in his house, which, by the way, was an absolutely gorgeous home. And they were excellent hosts. And we talked, and it was a great conversation. We talked about the arts and how we could get the art community involved. And what we did was we set up a meeting at the Whistler House, and we invited the arts community, and I'd say there was perhaps about 40 or 50 individuals that came with great ideas, and they were very excited about helping out the Lowell school system. And if Dr. Scott could speak on that for a minute too, I would appreciate that, because that was, again, I think it would be a great partnership, and it's a great opportunity, especially in these difficult times, to get that art community involved.
Well,
Madam Superintendent, if you'd like to
thank you, Your Honor.
address that.
We did have a very interesting meeting that evening with over 40 artists from the city of Lowell, and we had conversations about how they thought they could engage our students in, they have many different talents, and what talents they would bring to the table that would align with our curriculum. They had many suggestions. After that, we met with all of our art teachers, and we put together a directory of all the artists in the city who wanted to participate in our art program. And we have since also met with LZ Nunn, with our art teachers, to talk about Art Month that's coming up in September here in the city, and how our students could work with the art community and work with our students, and then have our children's artwork on display throughout the city. So we are looking forward to working closely with artists in our city to enhance the fine arts programming that we offer throughout our system. We think it's, people are very welcoming and very giving of their time and their talents. So we are looking forward to moving ahead, and as well working with the Arts and Ideas Center at UMass Lowell, and also having conversations with Middlesex about fine arts offerings and opportunities that would be available to our students.
I know Western Avenue, they have many, many artists over there doing great, great work. Actually, they're making a living at it, so they could certainly be incorporated with this plan, Mr. Conway. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next motion on the agenda, by John Leahy and James Leary. Instruct the superintendent to work with the Lowell City Manager in order to send a letter to the Middlesex Charter School informing them of Lowell Public Schools' intent not to list the Rogers Middle School as surplus. As a result, the City of Lowell will not engage in negotiations regarding the sale of the Rogers Middle School. Additionally, with the Lowell City Manager, open a dialogue between the Lowell Public Schools and Middlesex Charter School regarding potential rentals of Lowell Public School facilities such as the Barnum School as they become available. Seconded by Ms. Connie Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As many people have pointed out to me, this paragraph is longer than all three of Connie Martin's motions put together. It's very, I guess the word used to me a couple times is verbose, which is, I'll take that as a positive connotation. I think what we've learned in the paper from, I guess, Jen Meyer's article is that the city manager may have already sent a written correspondence to the charter school. In addition, it's actually probably called the Lowell Community Charter School, not the Middlesex Charter School. But I guess we could use a copy of that letter because that may have already been done. I don't, Madam Superintendent, if you could respond to that, because I wasn't cognizant until I picked up the Lowell Sun.
I wasn't cognizant that he had responded, but I was cognizant of the fact that he had a letter on his desk, and we had no, that letter didn't come to our desk, it didn't come to us. So, you know, the assumption could be made that he did respond, so I didn't know
Okay.
when the letter went out, but
If there is a letter, can we get a copy of it just for our, our FYI going forward, just so we can be assured that that's been addressed, unless someone has a disagreement with that portion of it.
No,
The second portion of it that Mr. Leahy and I put together was really looking at ways of generating revenue.
right.
And looking at instead of being passive and waiting for budgets to be done, look at opportunities. We do this a little bit with the gyms, gymnasiums, the physical education facilities, looking at facilities that are existing. God bless you. Looking at facilities that are existing and see if we can generate dollars. Thank
Great.
you.
Just on the, first of all, the Rogers School is owned by the Lowell School Department. Manager Lynch has no say in that. The only way the city manager could sell that building is for this elected body to say the Rogers School is no longer needed. And the same thing with the Varnum School. If the school committee decides to revert that school back to the city, then the city has options, an RFP, they could lease it, rent it out to a school. But I would check in with the law department to find out if the school department could lease that school to someone else to generate revenues. So as long as it's under your domain, I think you're entitled to do so.
And I think that's a good idea, Mayor. I think the idea was really opening a dialogue, not to make decisions one way or the other, just explore possibilities. And obviously, we would have to perform to, state law, city ordinances, et cetera. And I think putting the city manager, really the city side, if you will, in that conversation, so they're cognizant of what may or may not take place. Thank you.
But the Varnum School, as much as I know, the school department still controls that building, and we're waiting on the city side of government for you to release that school, because we're certainly going to put it on an RFP like the 10th Street School. That turned out to be a diamond, a jewel in the central section of our city. And instead of just sitting there decaying, someone purchased the building, turned it into a beautiful two-family home, and everyone's happy. So, a good motion, Jim and John. Any more discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next motion by James Leary requests the superintendent to reopen the dialogue with the Lowell plan and to invite the executive boards of the Citywide Parents Council, Friends of Lowell High School, the University of Massachusetts Lowell, Middlesex Community College as it relates to Lowell High School, with emphasis on the upcoming 2010-2011 budget. In addition, create a new dialogue pertaining to the entire Lowell Public Schools with emphasis on the upcoming 2010-2011 budget. The initial dialogue would consist of a meeting with the entire school committee in order to share ideas on how to generate new revenues along with managing existing ones. Seconded by Mr. Conway. On the motion.
Thank you. And again, another verbose motion from Jim Leary, but I think the intent really, I guess, is borne by some frustration, but also some of the creativity that the mayor of Boston, Tom Menino, had put forward in terms of his sports program. I think that's initially how this idea began. How could we have business partners and other partners come in, and kind of similar to Mr. Conway's motion regarding the partnership with the arts community. I think we did have beginning dialogue regarding the high school, which, for obvious reasons, with our crisis that we're currently in place, that's not something that really is on the top of the agenda to even debate, much less go forward with. But I think using that catalyst, using the business community, the parent community, and our higher education community to look at what we're dealing with. I think if we're not aggressive going forward, we're going to have a terrible year next year. We're going to have we had a terrible year this year. $8 million in cuts devastated our system. We are solid, but there are many challenges. If we sustain it, in my opinion, even half of that $8 million, we are in significant jeopardy of losing our school system and ultimately losing our city. I think this is an opening dialogue going forward. There's other forums as we get into the Mary Magicabaluco Forum in December. That might be more of a catalyst to invite other people with other ideas. But uniting the business community, which does want to help the schools, uniting the parent community, which are our customers, uniting the higher education folks who do have resources, who have helped us out in the past, who we worked in collaboration with. I think beginning that dialogue now, without predetermining results as to where it may go, using maybe Mr. Conway's idea as the partnership with the arts community as one method, maybe other methods develop. And I think, again, not to be more wordy than my motion, open the dialogue, see where we can receive assistance in terms of generating revenue, being aggressive as opposed to just waiting to see what the state's going to give us or what the city can give us. Thank you.
I just would like, it's a great motion, Jim, and I would like to say that the business community in Lowell, you can't find anyone better. And they're always there during a crisis, but they're always there to help. And it's only right that we ask if they'd like to be involved. And the Lowell plan, I can't say enough about Jim Cook and the Lowell plan. We had the 2010 census meeting Monday night at Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and who came forward but the Lowell plan to make sure everyone had nourishment, and the meeting was well attended. So that's a good motion.
Just one thing, man, I want to add, too, that a lot of this part came through William Samaras, the headmaster, his concerns. We've had a dialogue going on for the past 3 weeks of his concern of the budget cuts, and we discussed what type of mechanism can work, or at least can attempt to work. So this is a lot of my motion really is with his sort of thought process and prodding me to put some of this together and to put the committee together to do it together so we can be successful.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion carries. The last motion of the evening by James Leary, request the Lowell High School headmaster provide the Lowell School Committee with Lowell High School plans for organizing and implementing substitute teaching staff and managing their costs during the upcoming 2009-2010 school year, seconded by Ms. Dougherty. This is an excellent motion.
This is another one that I discussed with Mr. Samaras regarding, looking for ways to reduce costs for the, substitute teachers. It's our largest school. It's a good place to start in terms of seeing if we can save monies and look for different ways of putting together how we interact with our professional development time for our teachers as well as absences. And Mr. Samaras will be, he's almost got a plan in place as it is right now to put that together. The committee can start looking at that, and maybe if it's something that is of benefit, we can take that and go to the middle schools and the elementary and tailor that if there's a fit. So it's something that he's eagerly to look forward to working on. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. Have I missed any motions?
No, Your Honor. Nice job.
Subcommittees. The Special Education Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of August 18, 2009 by Jackie Dougherty, Chairman.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Special Ed Subcommittee did meet last night. Present were myself, Connie Martin, John Leahy, and Jim Leary. And from the administration, we had Superintendent Scott, Assistant Superintendent Murphy, and Assistant Superintendent Lang. Basically, we had one item on the agenda, and that was an update on how the administration plans to go forward with special education services, given the significant cuts that we had to make at the last budget cycle, that many of them directly impacted student services. So part of the discussion centered around, and I guess I'll back up a little bit, because in addition to the cuts to student services, in particular the elimination of the Director of Special Education position, another aspect of change with special, it's really an enhancement of the school-based special education teams. 4 years ago, this committee, may recall, we allocated quite a bit of funding to go to these school-based teams. And that was to improve our compliance record, which we in fact did. We are now at 100% compliance on our timelines. But our student scores have been stagnant. Special education students haven't been making the kind of progress that we'd like to see. So we're looking at really strengthening those school-based teams and having them all be located at their schools. They used to have office space at central office, but when central office moves to the Rogers School, they will not be going to they will be based at their schools. And that would hopefully strengthen the connection between special education and general education, and build really school-based programs that better serve the needs of students. So we discussed some of the challenges that are involved with that. One of particular concern was the issue of spacing at the schools, particularly at the middle school level, where we've now closed the Rogers School for our middle school students. Our other middle schools are going to be seeing a lot more students, and how do we have space for these special ed teams and the work they need to do? So we had some discussion about adequate workspace and the technology access those professionals will need, as well as, you know, confidentiality issues with working with students and their families. So basically that was a report in progress. The second piece, the special education director position, Assistant Superintendent Murphy provided us with a list of many job responsibilities that fell under the director. It was quite daunting to look at, and how the administration is looking at reorganizing some of those responsibilities, putting things having to do with tuition, contracts, purchase orders, having that go right to the business office. And issues that had to do with special education professional development, having that go to the professional development office, which would, again, combine, you know, why have separate professional development for special education staff than the general ed staff? Really work to combine them so they're working together.
That would be a cost-saving measure, too,
Yes.
wouldn't
The idea is to do it smarter, more efficiently, and still provide the services we need to see those students start to make progress. So that's still a work in progress as well, because we've got, you know, many areas that came under the director of special education, many that go back to the laws of the state around compliance, around delivery of special education services. So we had a motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy, for the administration to provide a report updating the special education subcommittee on, 1, the relocation of the school-based teams, 2, data relative to the impact of school-based teams, and 3, the system changes to provide greater efficiency due to the elimination of the special education director. And so we're hoping to get much more comprehensive information, specific details back from the administration as they continue to deal with these challenges. So I
So
would make that-
this motion could deal with the reorganization?
Yes, we're
and
going to
so
get a
forth?
complete report. So that, I would make that in the form of a formal motion here tonight for the full committee for that report that we're looking for. We're hoping
Well, the
sometime later.
motion's
in
already
September.
here, and it was seconded.
Yes.
And
So don't we have to vote as a whole?
yeah, we will, but I want to take a roll call vote on this, too,
Okay.
because it's a reorganization, and it's cost-saving and so forth. So, motion brought forward by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. The report brought forward by Ms. Doherty, that we should ask the administration to provide a report updating the Special Education Subcommittee on the relocation of the school-based teams, data relative to the impact of school-based teams, and 3, the system changes to provide greater efficiency due to the elimination of the special education director position. That was voted on 3-0. Any discussion on this report? Yes, Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that it was a very productive meeting, and what we realized that we need to do is, through this crisis, we're gonna reorganize, we're gonna refocus the director position. So eventually, when it does come back, the special ed director will focus directly on student services. Over the years, this position may have expanded with duties that this person should not have been responsible for. So we understand the challenges coming up in the next year. We're appreciative that everybody in all different departments coming together to get this task done. So a lot of good will come out of this crisis that we're in. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we take a roll call vote on that, please? Madam Clerk?
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Okay, there's no other subcommittee reports? Okay. Moving on with the agenda, reports from the superintendent. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Your Honor. The first one being the laying the foundation pre-AP science training that we are able to offer to 20 of our middle school teachers. And it's really a product of our partnership with UMass Lowell and our STEM pathway. We had the opportunity to meet with all of our teachers last spring and share with them the curriculum that this pre-AP science training would involve and how it would enhance our objectives around science. And we are very pleased and grateful to UMass Lowell that they gave us all 20 seats to Lowell Public Schools. They could have chosen to divvy those seats up in any number of ways. But in support of our STEM pathway, our students are benefiting this week. And this is an opportunity, it's made possible again, one of many that we have benefited from over the years. And we will continue to benefit as we proceed. We have just been informed that we did receive the National Science Foundation grant as well with UMass Lowell in support of our STEM pathway to the amount of $250,000 over every year for 5 years, which is another initiative that is really going to address our science, technology, engineering, and math initiative in the district. That's that report. School arrest summary. Shall I go over this? With regards to the elementary schools, 2008, 2009, the report in front of you and the details of all of the various offenses.
The committee has that report, and I think
Yes,
it'd be...
Your Honor, I'm
Right,
going
sure.
to ask that that report be submitted to the Safety Subcommittee. Madam Superintendent, with your permission, thank you. We have a meeting coming up at the end of August. There are some things in the report that I really think we as a school committee need to look at and take a look at. So if the superintendent will forward that report to the Safety Subcommittee, we're meeting the 27th of August.
Okay.
And we'll have that report to actually look at and dissect.
Motion by
Please.
Ms. Fattacani to refer this report to the Safety Subcommittee, seconded by Ms. Doherty. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you, Your Honor.
So be it. Yes, Lydia?
Just a question. Ms. Fattacani, would you like the report to proceed now or wait and refer it and bring it back at that time?
No, it won't change, but I think that our
Yeah,
understanding
there's money.
of
We
what,
really should. It's some money.
I think if you look at some of the categories there, we probably want to have a discussion about that.
No,
You see, $250,000.
And it would also be nice, Madam Superintendent, is if you could get us the number of students that attend the charter school. Because I'd like to do a little comparison of their results and ours. Is that because that's not our charter school, that's the, yes. So I think that would be interesting, and that's why, with all due respect, not giving the report tonight, I think it would be good for us to make a little comparison as to what their report looks like and what our report looks like.
Ms. Doherty?
If I could also, through you, ask the superintendent for additional information on this report. One thing that jumped out at me, and I think it's an excellent suggestion to bring it up in safety, is the high school numbers, because we're looking back over from 2005 to 2009, and we know our student population dropped, but the number of student arrests at the high school almost doubled.
Yeah.
from 36 in the school year 2005-2006 to 63. Not quite a double, but a significant increase. And if we could get some more information about, I mean, maybe it's just simply, we've got 100 cameras over there now, and we're catching things, I don't know, but I would like some information to kind of figure out why we're seeing an increase in, misbehavior arrests. I mean, that's
But we must
pretty-
applaud the other 98% of the students who are doing a great job.
Right. But I think that I would like to have some discussion about what are some reasons that we did see an increase, and maybe it is something that we're just being more vigilant. But I would like that addressed, and just to give you a heads up on that. Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay, Madam Superintendent?
Just two questions. There are the two charter schools. Would you like the information from both of those?
Madam
Middlesex
Superintendent, I
and-
didn't hear you. What was that?
The two charter schools? Middlesex and?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Because it would be interesting to see what our numbers look like in comparison to their
Sure.
numbers.
And just one other point of clarification, I will invite the administration and members of the police department who work at the high school to the subcommittee to address
That would be great.
Ms. Doherty's.
Ms. Doherty, I think, would agree to that.
Okay.
And I want to thank Assistant Superintendent Murphy. This was an excellent report. It's very informative, and I think it really needs to be taken apart a little bit and for us to really understand what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, the next report, student activity funds audit, and I think it pretty well speaks for itself as well, if there are any questions. If not,
That's a personnel report, Madam Superintendent?
that's the student activity funds
Student- okay.
audit, the audit report.
Do we have a special committee for that to oversee if there's the funding?
Yes, that goes through Assistant Superintendent Jay Lang's department.
So we track that to make sure everything is,
Yes, Your Honor, which,
Okay.
if you'd like more details, I
What's
can, he'd like more details with regards to the audit of the student activity accounts.
We track all the funds through the business office.
Good.
And then this is Powers and Sullivan, the independent auditor that comes in for the city.
Okay.
They also come in to audit these accounts.
Okay.
So this is their report.
all right.
And to add to that, although this happened earlier in the summer, our entire books were audited, and we did not have one finding in the Lowell Public Schools. And I appreciate Assistant Superintendent Lang's efforts and his staff on that significant and important point. The next personnel report, as submitted. At this time, I would like to call on Sue Mulligan, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel and Recruitment, just to give the committee an update on where we are right now with hiring back some of our staff. That's not in this report, just so that you have the up-to-date information.
I wanted to apprise the committee of the fact, as you know, we ended school in June with 220 teachers with layoff notices. By the end of June, we called back 99 non-professional status teachers. Those are teachers who have been hired permanently, who worked under 3 years for the district. Since then, we've hired back 68 long-term substitutes. 9 of our long-term substitutes have received employment in other districts. We have 44 more long-term substitutes to hire back to complete the hiring of our 121 long-term substitutes. We have 12 open positions right now, and as of today, we have 9 maternity leaves that need to be filled. Now, that will probably change within the next few days because we receive them on a daily basis. So I wanted to apprise the committee of where we are right now in the hiring process. I hope that helps.
Mr. Leary?
Just, I mean, and I know it's a difficult process because it was, a lot of folks were affected by it, but I guess some questions I had regarding unemployment, and I don't know if you can answer that now, but a lot of folks were given notices back in June saying they were not going to receive their job. They were terminated. They applied for unemployment and were told they may be hired back, and thus they're in limbo status. So I don't, what is the law that we're following with this, so people can, at least the public can get an idea as to what we're doing? Or how we're applying this, because I think people are trying to file for unemployment. The likelihood, as you just articulated, there's 44 people, there's not that many positions, so people will be eligible for unemployment. When do we make a final determination, and what legal procedures are we following to do that?
As of the first day of school, if someone is unemployed, then definitely they can collect unemployment. Through the summer months, many of our long-term substitutes have elected to be paid on 52 weeks. So they are receiving a paycheck from the city of Lowell for their work in the school year. Some teachers elect to be paid on 42 weeks, and that means they get a little bit extra every week during the school year, and have been paid out effective the last day of school. So it varies. The summer months are a time when the school year has not yet begun yet. We do most of our hiring during the summer months, so to note to a teacher that, you know, you have a layoff notice, but I really believe that you will be hired back next year. We've been very successful at hiring back our long-term substitutes. So I have every confidence that if we don't hire back the 44 that are currently unemployed, we're going to be pretty close to hiring all, if not most of them back.
Your Honor,
Ms. Fattacani?
I have to tell you, I'm very unhappy with the way we have dealt with people's unemployment. What you just said, Assistant Superintendent Mulligan, was you're very confident that we'll hire some of those people back. We're not going to hire all of them back, and that means we strung some people along who haven't been able to pay their mortgage. We have received emails, and you have responded to us. There's no guarantee that that woman's coming back. She probably has rent or a mortgage to pay and bills. So we're doing people a disservice by letting them think maybe they're coming back, when in reality, that may not be the case. We are facing incredibly tough economic times, and I don't think it behooves us as an employer to treat people that way. I really find it unacceptable that we have to do a better job at not holding people hostage. I don't know what the answer to that is, and maybe our hands are tied, but we need to be doing a much better job, because some people are out there hurting, and they're not sure if they're going to get their jobs back, and they also can't apply for unemployment compensation. So they're in limbo. It's horrible, especially if you're responsible to pay your rent or mortgage, and you can't get a straight answer. We need to be doing a much better job about how we terminate people and the expectation of them coming back, so that they can apply for the benefits and receive benefits, so they don't get evicted, or they don't lose their home, or they don't get their lights shut off because they have no income coming in. We have to do a much better job here, Your Honor. Thank you.
Before I recognize Connie Martin, I have never witnessed such a fiscal meltdown either in this state, and it affects everybody. Connie Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I think we all certainly feel that same concern for all our employees at every level. And I think one of the distinctions, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, is the concern specifically about unemployment insurance, and this has always been my historical understanding of it, is that teachers' work year is considered to be September to August, so that you have teachers who are teaching from September through June, but they can their year is considered to stretch for a full 12 months. Many of them will make the choice that they get paid for 12 months, that they get paid every week. I think we're on a weekly schedule now. Right. They get paid every week. Even during the summertime, they're getting their same amount of check during the end of the summer. And those individuals would not have unemployment available to them because they're being paid for work that they had done during the full school year. And for those specific individuals, certainly they can find themselves, it's very upsetting to not know what's going to happen to you in September. And I'm sure many of them are applying to other districts, and we may pay the price of losing some very talented people. But that's, so with unemployment at least, that's how it goes. For these other, and I didn't realize we still did this though, that there are teachers who take the option of being paid 42 weeks, who can still do that, so that they're getting a larger paycheck during the actual school year, and yet it still is paying them for that full 12 months. So again, even if a teacher or long-term sub, whatever, had taken that option, they are not getting a paycheck now during the summer, but they've already been paid for that time. So they still don't qualify for unemployment until that key September date when they are no longer being paid for their work. So I'm hoping that everything I just said is still accurate and reflects, okay. But I think anything we can do to
Explain
help
well.
people, anything we can do to help people, I mean, I am certainly, right there. And I think as soon as with the personnel department, I know working very hard to get people back on board so that people know where they are. There is nothing worse than standing on shifting sands and not knowing what your life is going to be. So I, certainly applaud and encourage the personnel department to continue their efforts to really get people back on board and back on solid footing as soon as possible, because people's lives are, we're talking about people's lives, and that's profoundly important. Thank you.
Mr. Conway?
But just to clarify something, if a teacher gets paid in X amount of dollars, and they take that option, they're not getting any more money just because they're getting paid in the summertime. Correct. So in other words, they'd still be eligible for their unemployment, because it would be, what they're doing is they're separating that, they're taking that money over a 52-week period, but they're not getting any more. They're getting paid up until June, whatever it is. They're not getting paid in the summer anyways. We have just given an option to allow them to take that money over the summer, but they're not getting paid. Nobody's getting paid in the summer.
But I think the distinction is that the school year is considered, their employment year is considered September through August. They can choose to get paid for 42 weeks, or they can choose to get paid for 52 weeks. It's the same amount of money, it's just spread over a different account. You're taking if I understand, you're saying that they're getting paid for a 9-month period, and they can choose to take it over 12. What I'm saying is, they work for us for a 12-month period,
But
they can choose to take it over 9 months
But both options should have the opportunity for that unemployment.
at that September timeframe, because they are officially working for us, even if they're not in the classroom, through the end of, until the new school year begins. Because their work year, their employment year, is considered to be from September through August, not September through June. And I believe that a lot of that is predicated on the need for continuing insurance. If they aren't considered an employee during that period, then they wouldn't be available, insurance wouldn't be available. You'd have to start new employment years every school year, every September.
Could I have Sue Mulligan just weigh in on this issue, please?
My understanding is the same as yours, Ms. Martin. And further, that the insurance, if an employee opts for the benefit package, if they are truly going to be unemployed, that's going to conclude on October 1st of this coming year. So they would be covered through that period.
And I guess, sorry.
The Madam Superintendent, then I'll get you, Jim. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that Assistant Superintendent Mulligan had an opportunity to address everything she had heard, and if she had agreed with what school committee member Martin had said. So, because I do know that Ms. Martin and her staff have worked very hard to ensure that everybody has got placed, and you're being very responsive. So.
Yes. that's
Mr. Leary?
Just quickly, I think in the Part B of the equation is, and I don't know the issues yet in terms of the complexities of when we know when positions are available or not available, and so I'm not even looking for an answer right now, but I think one of the things that, as we go through this next year, we need to be a lot quicker, because a lot of folks need to know if they have a job so they can start applying for jobs. And I know it's difficult, and I'm not trying to fault anything, it's just when you talk to people, they're like, I don't know. I'll know like the week before September, whether I'm employed or not. So and we could lose a lot of good people that way. So if we can get the people who make these decisions to make them in a more efficient way, if possible. Again, I don't even know if it's possible, but anything we can do to expedite this process would make a burden that's already heavy less heavy. Thank you. And I appreciate the effort you put into it. It's not an easy thing to do. Thank you.
Madam Superintendent?
I think I appreciate those comments, Mr. Leary. I think just to add to the complexity of this year, although Sue and her staff have been extremely responsive, the budget season was so late into the year, which really disadvantaged us in getting people notified. So we would have had more time in years past because the budget would have been approved sooner, et cetera, et cetera. So it has a domino effect. So people have been working very diligently, but because of many variables, it did definitely increase the stress level of our staff who, did not know where they were going to be placed and when they would be coming back. And as you know, after school ended, we lost an additional $500,000 out of our budget. Then we lost an additional over $1 million out of Title I. This all impacts all of our employees. That's a lot of people who we just couldn't. We've just recently heard of some more grants that we're just hearing about now that we would have known sooner. So it's just such a tough year because as the funds are delayed, people are in limbo, and we're losing, to your points, good people to other districts because we can't hire somebody till we know we have secured these funds. So it is a problem, and we are working on it as fast as we hear. As different grants and funds come in, we do confirm with our staff, but that's just part of our difficulty we're facing.
I preaching to the choir. I have never seen such a fiscal meltdown in my 22 years as serving in government. The governor brought forward 9C cuts early in the spring with a result of $2.5 million to the city. The school department had to cut $600,000. You found that money. And we were cut in local aid $16 million. $16 million. And unprecedented. And where do you find $16 million? And what has happened is the school committee, the selected board, and the mayor had to make some horrific cuts to personnel. Was it $6.8 billion, Jay, we cut? 7.2 million. It has to affect the personnel because 85% of the budget is personnel. And I don't have an answer. I don't think Sue Mulligan has an answer. I think we're just going to have to cross our fingers and just do our best. And I don't want to be a tiding of bad news, but the state of Massachusetts revenues were down $200 million in June, and God knows what they're going to be down at the end of September. And my visit to Beacon Hill, everyone says there's going to be more cuts. So we're going to have to tighten the belts and do what's best. And, Sue Mulligan, I think you've done an outstanding job handling this dilemma with the personnel. Madam Superintendent?
I'd just like to say, Mayor, although it was $7.2 million out of our general operating or Chapter 70 monies, with the grants and the cuts that we have basically to date received, it's significant. It's over $8 million. So it's
$8 million?
Yes, in total.
Okay, Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. I just was wondering if the superintendent could just keep us in the loop. I noticed that there's a resignation at the high school for the math department chair. Could you just let us know, just keep us informed on how that works out, the process? So obviously we didn't want to eliminate any more chairs. And then when this resignation came up, we just want to make sure that obviously there's going to be a selection before the school year. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Leary?
I mean, so we're posting the position and we're going to fill that position because we did fund it. Okay, thank you.
Madam Superintendent, if you want to continue with your
Yes.
reports?
Request for home education. The Torres family at 31 Belrose Avenue and the Colby family of 101 Melville Avenue. Under general law, Chapter 76, Section 1, home education is constitutionally permissible. Therefore, I recommend approval of this request. If granted, the number of families approved by the Lowell School Committee to homeschool will be total 30, and the total number of children will be 53.
Move approval.
Before we accept the report as report of progress, I believe we have to take a roll call vote on laying the foundation for pre-advanced placement science training. So if the committee would like, I'd like to take a roll call vote on that. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on that laying the foundation? Report number one? I believe there's money involved there, and
I need someone to approve it.
Move approval.
move approval by Ms. Fatakay, second by Mr. Leahy. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes?
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. And I believe on home education, don't we have to take a roll call
Yes.
vote on that? So moved by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Fattacani. Roll call, please.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes?
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
And accept the reporter's report of progress on the reports of 2, 3, 4, and 5. So moved by Mr. Conway,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those reports have been accepted and placed on file. I am now going to be looking for, let me see, as soon as I find that information that Jay gave me.
Move for suspension of the rules, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you. Move for suspension of the rules by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Mr. Conway. And as soon as I find that information,
You have to
I
name the
have it right here.
purpose, for the
I have
purpose.
For the purpose of discussing the principal's template contract
yes,
and salary schedule.
yes. And I have it worded here so that the committee can hear. Attached, please find copies of the material supplied at last evening's executive session meeting pertaining to the new principal contract template and salary schedule. I have worked with the Assistant City Solicitor, Tom Sweeney, on the language contained within the contract template and greatly appreciate his assistance with this matter. As you recall, during the fiscal year 2010 budget deliberations process, the K through 8 principals and the Lowell High School headmaster agreed to waive the 1% salary increase that was due them on June 30th, 2009, to assist with the closing the gap on a very difficult fiscal year 2010 budget. And this gesture represented a savings of $20,898 to the local budget of fiscal year 2010. And this memo is from Jay Lang. The first issue that we're going to be voting on, and I'll read that to you. You have everyone have this in front of you? Below are 5 motions from the executive session meeting to be voted on in public session to finalize the new principal's contract template and salary schedule. 1, to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to adopt a new contract template for school principals that contain the terms and conditions of employment which have been reviewed and approved to form by the City of Lowell Law Department, eliminating the provision contained within paragraph 4, Section D, a copy which is attached and marked Appendix A. 2, to compensate Shaughnessy Elementary School principals Linda Lee with the sum of $3,500 for serving as mentor principal to Cheryl Cunningham, teaching principal at the Moody Elementary School during the 2008-2009 school year. 3, to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to adopt a salary schedule to be used to establish the initial salary compensation level for new school principals within the Lowell Public School District, a copy of which is attached and marked Appendix B. 4, to affirm that the individual annual salary of each school principal within the Lowell Public School Districts as of July 1st, 2009, is listed within the column titled 7/1/2009 without a 1% increase of the document titled Lowell Public Schools Principals Annual Salaries, July 1st, 2009, a copy of which is attached and marked Appendix C. 5, to affirm that the individual annual salary of each school principal within the Lowell Public Schools District as of January 1st, 2009, is listed within the column titled 1/1209 of the document titled Lowell Public Schools Principals Annual Salaries, July 1st, 2009, a copy of which is attached and marked Appendix C. That is what's before you. If you'd like to take each one individually.
Move approval.
Move approval by Ms. Fattacani,
For all five?
All five.
Okay.
seconded by Ms. Martin. Any discussion, any debate?
I have, I'm
Yes.
sorry, through you, Your Honor, to Mr. Lang. Number 2, does that have to be taken separately?
I would actually recommend you take all 5 separately,
Yeah, I do, too.
to be honest with you.
Move approval on number 1, Your Honor.
Move approval on number 1 as presented by
As
the
read
mayor.
by, yes.
Seconded by Mr. Leahy. We're going to vote on number 1 to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to adopt a new contract template for school principals. Roll call.
I have discussion though first, on number 1, okay. I just wanted to ask that, even though we're approving this tonight, I did want to make a motion at the end of this, that this contract template that we're approving tonight is my understanding is more or less housekeeping, just to get everything in order.
Yes.
I would like to make changes for the upcoming year, or at
But
least.
that would be renegotiating the contract.
Right.
Right.
So I just want to make it clear that I'm accepting this as housekeeping issues, but I would like to discuss for the upcoming year,
Yes.
open a dialogue for discussion of a new
John, you and I are on the
contract.
same page. I
Okay,
think
I just
everyone
wanna-
else is
okay.
too.
Thank you.
Roll call on number 1.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Number 2, I'll read it once again, and I'll explain the reason for this is, in the past, principals who were mentors were automatically paid a $3,500 stipend for working with a new principal and guiding them through the year. But with the new auditor, the auditor wants to see it in writing, and now it is in writing, and the auditor will move forward. To compensate Shaughnessy Elementary School Principal Linda Lee with the sum of $3,500 for serving as the mentor principal to Cheryl Cunningham, teaching principal at the Moody Elementary School during the 2008-2009 school year. Move for approval by
Move
Ms.
approval.
Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. Any discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Number 3, to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to adopt a salary schedule to be used to establish the initial salary compensation level for new school principals within the Lowell Public School District, a copy which is attached and marked Appendix B. So moved for approval by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Leary. Any discussion, any debate? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Article number 4, do you want me to say that again? Okay. To affirm that the individual annual salary of each school principal within the Lowell Public School District as of July 1st, 2009 is listed within the column titled 7/1/2009 without a 1% increase. Of the document titled Lowell Public Schools Principals Annual Salaries, July 1st, 2009, a copy of which is attached and marked Appendix C. Moved for approval by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Leary. On your discussion?
And this, I guess, that was said earlier in the budget time, but I think the principals of our system show true leadership.
Yes.
Well, management stepping forward and giving up 1% of their salary. And I think this comes top down, where the superintendent gave up her 4%, the assistant superintendents gave up their 4%, and the principals standing right in line giving up 1%. I want, again, I guess, and I know the whole committee feels the same way, thank them very much for showing leadership in times of crises. Thank you.
Monetary value, $20,898, and they should be applauded for stepping to the plate with this cause. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Number 5, to affirm that the individual annual salary of each school principal within the Lowell Public School District as of January 1st, 2009 is listed within the column titled 1/1/2009 of the document titled Lowell Public School Principal's Annual Salary, July 1st, 2009, a copy of which is attached and marked Appendix C. So moved for approval by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. Any discussion, any debate? If none, roll call.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Go ahead, Madam Superintendent.
I just want to clarify, in case there was any confusion with Committee Member Leahy. The principal's contract that you just voted on, the template, that is the only contract we have now. So our principals will have to use this contract until you negotiate a new one. Okay, I just didn't want any confusion around that point. Okay.
So,
I think what we're looking at is that traditionally what happens is that we do readdress principal contracts at the conclusion of all of our other negotiation cycles, so that we're entering into this year with negotiations with all of our unions, and I think the anticipation is that over the course of that time, we'll be able to address this template once again in that same process. Is that? Okay, I just want to make sure that's what Mr. Leahy is comfortable with.
what I want to do is make the motion that we start immediately to sit down and just, I mean, we've never done this before, so this is new to me. So
Okay.
I want to sit down, make a couple of changes. It's only going to take one meeting. If we agree, we agree. If we don't, we don't, and that's the end of it. So there's a few things on the template that I have questions about, and that's all I want to do. I don't want to start a big thing. I just want to make sure, and as far as, you know, traditionally, we may do this at the end of contracts. There's no reason why we can't just do it now. Like I said, it's just going to take an hour. If we agree to make some changes, we do, and if we don't, then that's the end of it.
Ms. Martin?
I'm sorry, could I ask just structurally, if we did refer this to the Personnel Subcommittee, which is obviously going to be meeting fairly soon, it would basically be a matter of making a motion, you know, from Mr. Leahy or any member of the committee that wanted to make a motion to make a change. It would have to be voted on by the full committee, and then it would just need to be submitted to the law department to ensure that it meets their standards, and then that would necessitate the update, and the template would just change based on that.
Madam Superintendent?
I do believe that you have to go into contract negotiations to do that. So the reason why this went forward as such is because you guys have already voted on all these things sometime in the past 2 decades. So this was putting together what you presently did all in one place. So there's nothing new here. To change it, the principals could say, like, for example, if you want to take any particular clause out of this or make whatever changes, the principals could say, you know, in the past, the way you've done it, I gather, is after you've dealt with all the other unions, you negotiate it with them per se.
When is this contract up for renewal?
It's based on individual work. These are individual contracts entered into with principals.
But when
It's
is
not
that, the principal contract, when is that up?
They all roll at different times. Everyone is given a 3-year.
do?
Yeah, so it's an ongoing.
So I can see your point, John. Yeah.
Again, and like I said, this is all new to us, so if you want to handle this on a,
Okay.
you know, every time every time there's a new hire, you could, I don't know, I mean, you don't have to bring this before us, right?
No, that's the purpose of having a template.
Right, but
So
I
that-
thought last night, we did, if we were going to make changes to this template, you know, it wasn't my understanding that we should have done it last night. It's my understanding that we approved this for more or less housekeeping procedures.
Right. Because it was already
I didn't want to
approved.
bog the meeting down with a bunch of changes, but I
Right.
do want to see some discussion on some items that are in there. They're not big
No, I understand.
items.
Sure.
It's just, you know, to me, it's some things that I disagree with, and I would like to hear an explanation for it. and I would like to see if the committee wants it to stay in the template. So
Sure.
I don't know how to handle this. I'm looking for advice. I'm just
Well,
want to change the template before we
Yeah,
hire
and
another new
Your Honor,
principal.
I think
that's
it's
think
very,
it's-
very simple. This goes to the Personnel Subcommittee,
Right.
Yes.
because Mr. Leahy's correct. It absolutely, we can change the template. We can make recommendations to the template. Absolutely. So, very easy that this goes to the Personnel Subcommittee, and we would invite all the members to the subcommittee to, in fact, have input on what they would like to see this contract look like. Absolutely, he's correct. We can make changes.
Mr. Leary?
And that's exactly what I was going to say, and I think last night it was explained to us, and I think Mr. Leahy would articulate that he probably wouldn't have voted for it if he knew we wouldn't be able to discuss this in a later fashion. And I think part of the discussion last night was, instead of waiting till after all the negotiations are done with all the rest of the unions, that we put this to the front burner along with everybody else, that it doesn't get pushed under the rug, that it doesn't wait, to year and a half down the road when everything else is resolved, that it's expedited. And that's what I heard last night, and I think Ms. Fedicani is correct. This is where it should go to Personnel Subcommittee to begin that dialogue, and then going thereafter where it may go. Thank you.
I agree, because there's certain language in this contract that I disagree with. And, John, you brought out a good point last night, and we should sit down. I never heard of these are individual contracts, that's what we're saying? It's not this is unbelievable. Why couldn't it be just the principal's contract, lump, and everyone lives by that?
Right, well, Your Honor, I think it kind of is individual, but they're not unionized. Different contracts come up at different times, so, basically it is a template for all, but the contracts renew at different times.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's a
So
good point.
both-
We're going to send it to the Personnel Subcommittee, and that's where we'll address it.
All right,
Let's-
so do I need to make a motion?
Under ed reform, Your Honor, this is now the process that we undergo every time we look at renewing the principal's contract. So to answer your question, this is a result of ed reform. Does Mr. Leahy want to make a motion?
Yeah, once everybody's done, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Leahy made a motion to refer this issue
To the Personnel
I'll
Subcommittee. Seconded by Ms. Fedicani. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Madam Superintendent.
Just one further point. Although Committee Member Leahy and Committee Member Fedicani are correct, changes can be made to the template by the committee. It does change past practice in the sense that ultimately would mean that you're not negotiating with the principals. You would just be telling them, this is the contract. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely not. No.
Is that what you mean, Mr. Leahy?
No, absolutely not. We do not want to forego any bargaining rights. We want to make changes to the template, and of course it's going to be an agreed-upon template by the two groups, of course. But I think we want to put our dibs in. Absolutely, right?
Yeah, in the template that we received from the law department,
Yes,
there's a couple of things that I just disagree with.
right.
So I would like to have a discussion. It was my understanding that last night was not the time for those discussions. So I would just like to move forward and have a discussion on,
Right.
on it.
I guess my point is, and Assistant Superintendent Lang, if you want to step in on this, but it is your right to, if there's a particular clause in here that you don't like as a committee, to change the template. That's just a different dynamic than negotiating the contract. That's all. I'm just agreeing with you. Yes, you do have the right, but it just sets up a different dynamic. That's all I'm pointing out.
My sense is that what we are discussing the template. If the changes that Mr. Leahy has concerns about and that other members may have, we would be talking about specifically changing the template, which is the traditional way that we have been able to do things.
Good point, John, and this will be referred to the Personnel Subcommittee, and will be discussed at that meeting. Moving on with the agenda.
Okay, does he want to make a motion to refer?
What's that?
I need a motion from Mr. Leahy.
We did.
I seconded
We
it.
did that.
Okay, so approved, okay.
Yeah. Moving on with the agenda, permission to post district support specialist adolescent literacy. Madam Superintendent?
This is the position that was covered when we talked about our stimulus package and our plan for spending the Title I funding monies, and this position was to be funded through that funding source as per the literacy evaluation that we had done by outside consultants over 2 years ago. And we have a great deal of work that needs to be done with regards to literacy at the middle school level, and our plan is to support that work through this, with this position.
Is there a salary associated with this, Madam Superintendent?
There is, and I'll refer to Assistant Superintendent Mulligan for that information. Again, it's funded through stimulus.
Okay. Any discussion? Go ahead, Susan.
Could you repeat the question, please, Mr. Mayor?
It's about posting the position.
I would have to look that up. Very honestly, it is in the administrator contract, and it is per that particular grid in the contract.
I think we all would want to see the salary amount, but I do want to be clear that this is a position that is specifically coming under our ARA stimulus funds. It has been specifically targeted at Title I, and it's the only use of this money we can really use it for. It's specifically meant to support those Title I eligible students around the adolescent literacy, primarily at the middle school level. And I do think it is it's a critically important position that we've needed for a long time, and the recovery funds are what has made it possible. As many may recall, during our budget process, we had some flexibility with about 50% of our recovery funds, but the other 50% were very specifically targeted, and we were basically told how we need to spend them, whether they were special ed or Title I. I just want everyone to be clear that this is one of those situations where the Title I funding was specific as to what purpose this money could be spent on, and this is a new position, but it's something that's being paid for specifically because federal funds were allocated for it, and it's not replacing any other existing position that may have been in place before.
Yeah. Madam Superintendent, is going to be financed with federal funds?
Yes, that's correct,
Okay,
John.
just the one question I have is, what happens when those federal funds are exhausted? Would the
It's-
position still be there? It would be picked up by the school department?
Again, Mayor, for us, that's 2 years away, and like many
Okay.
things, like special education, we have many of our programs now funded by stimulus money that we have created this year to keep kids in district. Many of those programs need, in fact, to be funded with Chapter 70 money, but there just wasn't the money. And we set up these programs, which are high-quality programs, which have been approved by the state recently, and we are saving over $1 million by keeping these kids in. But again, in 2 years' time, when these funds dry up, every school district across the country is going to face this same issue of, we've built these programs, we've hired positions. To committee members Martin's point, they've told us you can hire using this money this way, but in 2 years' time, the need's not going to go away, but the money unfortunately will.
I must say that the person who's going to apply for this position has to be an excellent educator, because the requirements are vast. So why don't we take a roll call on this position?
Oh, I need some first and a second.
Move
Moved by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Mr. Leahy.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes. Excuse me?
Do we have a ballpark range of salary for this?
Yes, this salary is a Unit B position, probably high 60s at this particular position, I believe, depending on, that's the mid-range, depending on the level of education. And I'd like to remind the committee that we have spent more on consulting in the adolescent literacy study under the review in the past on adolescent literacy. This will be a full-time employee, works 195 days, and in my department, that is dawn to dusk and beyond, and working with the people that we have all approved for tutoring, that will work with our lowest performing middle school children. They'll be supervising the tutoring, the data, and all of that progress. So we will continue to report progress of the growth of the children as a result of the tutoring and this person's work. So just to remind everybody of a lot of the work that we've all done as a committee. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Leahy?
I just wanted to add, we had this discussion at the last meeting, and that when the salary range was discussed, I had asked that any savings we get on this salary, if we can find, with this applicant, we'll know that the funds aren't permanent. If there is an applicant out there who looks promising, we'll give them a chance, they'll give us a chance, they'll probably take, hopefully they could take the lower salary range, and I had asked that any savings can be applied to maybe one or two more tutors. That was the discussion we had, so just to kind of bring that up again. Thank you.
Gene, what was that salary figure? I didn't quite hear that.
Mayor Caulfield, it's in a range in the Unit B contract, 60s or mid-60s, depending on the level of education as per the
High
Unit B
60s?
contract.
You
Yes,
said high
sir.
60s?
Mid-60s,
Okay.
depending on the level of certification and education.
That sounds fair to me. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Convention and conference request, overnight field trip request from the Air Force Junior ROTC staff, David Smith, Robert Jakes, Charles Olander, Kevin Casilli, and Mary France Allen to travel to Washington, D.C. with approximately 40 students on April 16th through the 20th, 2010 school vacation week. There was absolutely no cost to the school department budget.
Move approval.
Move approval, Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
I know that trip to Washington, D.C. will be extremely educational for those junior ROTC students, and I know Chief Master Sergeant Robert Jakes and the entire staff will make it very interesting for those kids. Just have this to report to you. There's a little leaflet here, and it's very important to the parents. There's a free fingerprinting and photo ID clinic Saturday, September 12, 2009, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shed Park, Boylston Street, Lowell, Mass. The IDs will provide parents with the kind of identification information about their children that might be needed in an emergency. Up to 300 children is expected to participate. Brought to you by the Northeast Association of Realtors Community Service Community in conjunction with the Middlesex Sheriff's Department. Any other discussion or debate? I just want to say that I've been in these chambers many a hot summer night, but I think this one is the hottest. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. Thank you.